Hey, are you interested in playing a weird commander? Or just want to play a deck that will make for a memorable game? Maybe you're like me, you just don't care about what's OP, and you just want to march to the beat of your own drum, and have fun in a different way. Well, stay tuned then, because this video is all about that. We're going to be going over a killer budget deck starring Erinis Gloomstalker, and we're using the enchantment background Scion of Halaster. The rules for this series are simple. The total cost of the deck must be less than $50, and does not include the cost of the commander or cost of basic lands. And a quick note, just like all the EDH decks on my channel, I own this deck and have played with it. I don't just create my decks out of thin air for cheap content. At the time of this video, there are only 591 decks registered on EDH Rec, making this deck rank number 1404. And the total cost of this deck is $46.49. So I think Erinis is an awesome and unique commander. Erinis Gloomstalker costs 1 green and 2 colorless, and it's a 3/3 halfling ranger creature with Death Touch, and has, whenever she attacks, return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Choose a background. Now there's a lot of really busted stuff you can do with this ability, but this is a casual deck and a budget deck, so I'm not including anything that's like super broken or unfun for everybody. But every time Erinis attacks, you can ramp up a land from your graveyard, and there'll be plenty of lands with this deck's package. A nice part of that package is the background. I think Scion of Halaster was a very synergistic and fun choice. It's a legendary enchantment background that costs 1 black and 1 colorless. And it states, commander creatures you own have, the first time you would draw a card each turn, instead look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put one in the graveyard and the other back on top of your library, then draw a card. Basically, you look at 2 cards and put one in the bin. And what's really awesome is that this can trigger on your opponent's turn. That being said, this combination of Erinis and Scion lets us fill up our graveyard and also ramp at the same time. And let's start with the setup. Acolyte of Affliction. 2/3 human cleric. When it enters, you mill 2, and you return a permanent card from the graveyard to your hand. This might be a Battle of Turn or Witness in this deck. Also, the flavor text. The best healers are intimately familiar with death. Poetry. Glowspore Shaman. For black-green, it's an elf shaman, and when it enters, you may mill 3 cards and put a land card from your graveyard at the top of your library, and it's a 3/1. And I also think this art is flat out amazing. Lars Grant West, kudos to you. Satyr Wayfinder. Green, 1 colorless. Satyr. When it enters, you reveal the top 4 cards of your library, and you may put a land from among them into your hand, with the rest in your graveyard. Kaga, Shadow Arch Druid. 1 green, 1 black, 2 colorless. Legendary Elf Druid. When it attacks, it gains Death Touch, and until the end of the turn, you mill 2 cards. Once during each of your turns, you may play a land card, or cast a permanent spell from among the cards put in your graveyard this turn. It's nice because it fills your graveyard and it gives you the option to cast one of those spells, and it's a 1/4 and can get Death Touch. Not too bad. Skull Prophet is a human druid for 1 black, 1 green. It's a mana dork, and you can tap it to put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard, and it's a 3/1. Jared's Orders. 1 black, 1 green, 2 colorless sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 creature cards, reveal them, put 1 in your hand, 1 in your graveyard. Perfect way to get your Reclamation Sage or whatever tool you need. Corpse Chart is a instant for 1 black, 1 colorless, mill 3, and you may return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Grizzly Salvage. 1 black, 1 green, instant. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a creature or land card from among them into your hand and the rest in the graveyard. Rolling Regrowth. Try saying that 5 times in a row fast. Green 2, instant. Sacrifice a land, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them on a battlefield tap, then shuffle your library. Perfect way to get an additional land drop when your commander attacks. Conduit of Worlds. 2 green, 2 colorless artifact. You may play lands from your graveyard, and if you tap it, choose target non-land permanent card in your graveyard. If you haven't cast a spell this turn, you may cast that card. If you do so, you can't cast additional spells this turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Nice little utility card. Here are some key ways to keep our commander alive and ourselves alive. Of course, we gotta throw in Swiftfoot Boots. Whisper Soul Cloak is an absolute powerhouse in this deck. For 3 mana, it's an artifact equipment. Equip 2. Equipped creature can't be blocked and has Shroud. I can't tell you how many games I won because of this card. You get so much advantage and opportunity by being able to be unblocked. It's just amazing. Destined/Lead is a sneaky good card. One part of the card is black 1 instant. Target creature gets +1/+0 and indestructible, so you can save a creature. The second part, Lead, which is a sorcery, Aftermath, which you can only cast from your graveyard. For green 3, sorcery, all creatures able to block target creature this turn do so. It's great because you can save something, and if you mill it by accident, it still has value as you can get in for a lot of damage. Tamiyo Safekeeping, which I think is one of the best cards in the format, is instant. For 1 green, target permanent you control, not just creature, gains hexproof and indestructible to end of turn. You gain 2 life. Gnaw to the Bone is an awesome life gain option. For green 2, it's instant. You gain 2 life for each creature in your graveyard, which your graveyard will likely be full of creatures when you cast this, and has flashback for green and 2. Blessed Respite. 1 green, 1 colorless, instant. Target player shuffles their graveyard into their library. Prevent all combat damage will be dealt this turn. This card has so many awesome uses. I mean, it's a fog, and if someone's trying to pull some shenanigans on in their graveyard, you make them shuffle it in and stop them. Or if someone's trying to move your graveyard, you want those cards, you put it back in. So many uses. And Horner Queen, what can I say about this card? This is like a tried and true classic. For 3 green, 4 colorless, it's an insect with flying and death touch, and when it enters the battlefield, create 4 1/1 green insect creature tokens with flying and death touch. Great blockers, great reanimation target. And we definitely have some of the best recursion cards like Eternal Witness, Regrowth, and Reclaim, which brings cards back from the graveyard. And speaking of recursion, we do have a little combo in the deck with Shigeki, Jukai Visionary. For 1 green, 1 colorless, it's a legendary enchantment creature, Snake Druid. It's 1/3, and for 1 green, 1 colorless, you tap it, return it to your hand, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped, put the rest in your graveyard. Or, I like the channel ability. For XX green green, discard it and return X target non-legendary cards from your graveyard to your hand. So, say you have like a Regrowth, you add that, you can just keep recurring and recurring Shigeki because you get the Regrowth, and the Regrowth brings Shigeki back to your hand. You channel Shigeki, and you repeat the process. And being in black-green, we have some of the best options for removal. Now, Braid's Arisen Nightmare, black 1, colorless, legendary creature Nightmare. It's not exactly removal, but I included it anyways, just because I love the card. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. If you do so, each opponent may sacrifice a permanent with that shared type. For each opponent who doesn't, they lose 2 life and you draw a card. I just like this card. And that's why we play Commander. We do things that we enjoy and that are fun. And sticking with creature removal, which is great because we have a lot of reanimation targets, Terracodon, a big elephant that's a 9/9, 2 green, 6 colorless. When it enters a battlefield, you may destroy up to 3 target non-creature permanents. For each permanent put in the graveyard this way, its controller creates a 3/3 green elephant creature token. So you can take out up to 3 permanents, and in a pinch, if you need blockers, you got some blockers. And who doesn't love a 9/9 beater? And here we have the Commander Hall of Fame inductee, Reclamation Sage. For 1 green, 2 colorless, Elf Shaman. When it enters the battlefield, destroy targeted artifact or enchantment on a 2/1 body. And here's one of the best creatures in the deck and a true all-star, Worldbreaker. For 1 green, 6 mana, it's a 5/7 Eldrazi, devoid, which means it has no color. And when you cast it, exile target artifact, enchantment, or land. It has reach, and for 1 colorless and 2 generic, sacrifice a land, return Worldbreaker from your graveyard to your hand. And since our commander brings lands back to the battlefield when it attacks, this is not a problem. And some of the removal spells include Terra Sunder, which is instant for 1 green, 1 colorless, exile target artifact or enchantment. If this spell was kicked, exile target non-land permanent instead. And the kicker for 1 black, 1 colorless is the additional cost when you cast a spell. Death Sprout for 1 green, 2 black, and 1 colorless is an instant. Destroy target creature, search your library for a basic land card, put on a battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. And Back for More, which is an instant for black, green, and 4 colorless. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. When you do, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So it's reanimation and removal baked into 1. For mass removal, we have Culling Ritual, which is awesome. It's a sorcery for green, black, 2 colorless. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Add black or green for each permanent destroyed this way. It's a great mana source and a great way to just get rid of everything that's small. Gaze of Granite, green, black, black, X sorcery. Destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X or less. And the old school classic, Hurricane, green and X sorcery. Deal X damage to each player and each creature with flying. So since our commander is so great with getting lands from our graveyard back to the battlefield, we do have a couple all-stars. Bojuka Bog enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, exile all cards from target player's graveyard, add 1 black mana to your mana pool. Blighted Woodland, add 1 mana to your mana pool. Green, 3, sacrifice Blighted Woodland. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and put them onto the battlefield tap. Then shuffle your library. Blighted Fen, add 1 mana to your mana pool. Black, 4, sacrifice Blighted Fen. Target opponent sacrifices a creature. And Tectonic Edge, add 1 mana to your mana pool. Pay 1, sacrifice Tectonic Edge, destroy target non-basic land. Activate this ability only if an opponent controls 4 or more lands. And here's some ways to close the game out. One of the best ways to win is just suit up Erinis with a Black Blade and a Whisper Silk, and maybe 2 swings, they're done, because at that stage in the game, there's so many lands, the commander damage is just lethal. There's also a good reanimator package, and there's tons of ways with your creatures and your opponent's creatures to close the game out. And of course, you have the beatdown option with old, reliable, all-star commander card, Overrun, 3 green, 2 colorless, sorcery. All creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample end of turn. You have End-Raze Forerunners, the Poor Man's Craterhoof, 3 green, 5 colorless, Boar, 7/7. It has Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. And when End-Raze Forerunners enters the battlefield, other creatures you control get +2/+2, Vigilance, and Trample to the end of turn. And there's all kinds of big bad monsters like Giant Adaphage, which is a insect creature, 7/7, 2 green, 5 colorless, Trample. When Giant Adaphage deals combat damage to a player, put a token on the battlefield that's a copy of Giant Adaphage. You'll notice this deck is full of pet cards and nostalgia, but to me, that's why I play Magic and that's why I enjoy Commander, because you can do that. Let me know in the comments what you would put in this deck. I'm always interested in other options. And this is definitely a deck that will fly under the radar and steal wins just because people will think it's a joke. But believe me, there's been plenty of times where it's like the other 3 people in the match are saying, okay, we got to stop him, his deck just took over. And that's because they never saw it coming. I particularly enjoy playing this deck because a lot of the cards I just found laying around without a home in my decks, and I threw them in because they work well. Hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's not a popular commander, but give it a try. You won't be disappointed. And that's all, folks. I'll see you in the next one.